measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Robert Edward, Pablo de la Cruz, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Playing Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, JMels24, Unamento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Dal West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, and Dank. So, another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. But with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Come again?
The group of people that you formed in this little hangout, through all the pruning. Because I got Skep coming over today. I was just saying to Master B how, like, it was supposed to be in the middle of May and over the weekend, and I had a big plan. I wanted to spread for him and have dinner. And my wife cooked, but he's coming today. And, of course, I got nothing to offer the guy. And then sends me $100 freaking.
Oh, that's really sweet. Len is incredibly generous. So during the time that I was editing the book, I had to keep my wife away from doing her overtime, which she did last night. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually quite like her doing overtime. Not because I like to see my wife work, but her employer gives her free food. So they could do like you used to do Uber Eats. Yeah? Well, you order an Uber Eats on the company and she'd do a bit of overtime for them. That's kind of the exchange. And yesterday we had Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was lovely. But my point is, to keep her away from doing that, I was paying her with money that I would get in from PayPal. So when someone like Len would drop $100 on me, I'd be like, wow, thank you so much, because it keeps her incentivized. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure she loves me dearly and would have helped me anyway. But obviously, if I'm poor, she's poor, right? We as an entity, as a family, are poor. So, when you're struggling and trying to incentivize a partner who's got to work as well, away from doing overtime work, you need money to do that. And Len was right there, Johnny on the spot, more than most people, providing me money for a means that he knew was going directly to my wife. So I'm grateful, because I wanted to keep her incentivized. Otherwise, it would never have got done. So, Len's very, very generous. Oh, turn around. There he is. Hello, Len. Talking about how generous you are.
My book, and I've actually just sent you another £100.
There you go, Neil. Who, me or Neil?
You, not me.
Oh, me? Oh, well, thank you very much. I did not realise that. Thank you very much.
Both of yous.
I don't normally thank you live on air. Thank you so much. You've been incredibly generous. I know I was talking about you in the third person, but I just didn't realise you'd arrived. But yeah, thank you. It is extremely well received, let's just put it.
You're more than welcome.
I'm going to keep that £100, by the way. Well, there's an interim period, so my publisher hasn't got back to me yet. So it's not like I should be chasing him. I've kept him waiting for a couple of years. So a couple of weeks for me to not pester him, I think, is reasonable. You know what I mean? It's been about 10 days.
Is this a live pre-show, Nathan?
Say again?
Is this a pre-show? Is this getting recorded?
I don't know if I've ever had this conversation with you. If you see me anywhere, I am always recording.
We have had the conversation.
If I say I've stopped recording, that doesn't mean I'm not recording. What it means is I've drawn a conclusion to a show that we've been doing. So if I'm still here, I am still recording. That means take it as read that I am essentially always recording, because I am.
Something the pharmacist never realized.
Anyway, why'd you ask? What you're actually asking, I know you're not, I'm putting words in your mouth, but the question you're asking is this recording, the current recording, part of the after show? Not are you recording? Because the answer to are you recording is yes. What about tomorrow? Yes, always yes, right? But are you producing the after show currently? Or Uncut and after show, pre-show? Yes. This particular recording will become part of that. Yes.
No worries. It's fine. I was just going to kind of speculate, but I wanted to keep that private. I'll just send you a message.
Yeah, I'm quite difficult to talk to privately. Let's just put it that way. But there we go. Well, whatever. You don't have to feel like you stand on ceremony. You're here. You can talk about whatever you like. Like what's the word? Nothing up my sleeve. There's another term for it. Not wearing your heart on your sleeve. I'm quite open in that regard. If somebody wants to discuss something and it's potentially going to go out to members and then on a channel that hardly anybody's watching, the public eventually, like these pre-shows do, then so be it, right? If you want to talk about something, feel free. I'm not pressuring you to talk about it if you've already made up your mind you didn't want it to make it to air, which you obviously have. But don't feel like you need to stand on ceremony with something. And if you catch me off guard, I'm like, holy crap, that's very personal. That's good, right? Because that's entertaining. You catch me out.
Thank you very much, Len.
Say again?
I'm just saying thank you to Len. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, but I'm sure you hear me saying it to Neil. Like, don't stand up even when I'm telling you the opposite of that. So sometimes I'll be saying we should not be doing this, and then back in the day, Neil will be like, "All right, so you don't want me to talk about that?" I'm like, "No, I do want you to talk about it, so I can say we shouldn't be."
Yeah, it took me a while to catch on, but when Nathan's saying we shouldn't be doing this, do it all the more.
No, don't take it like that either. That's not necessarily what I mean either. I'm just saying, do whatever you feel is appropriate, right? Now, Neil was praising me for having good people on the panel because you're giving him money today, Len, right? And ultimately, the people who are on the panel, generally speaking, I trust and are engaging. And I'm not your mum, I'm not going to lay any moral standards on you. I just trust that you'll have at least a modicum of discretion when it comes to judgment, and therefore, because you are here, just feel free to talk about whatever you feel appropriate. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. Now, don't get me wrong, that trust that is occasionally gets taken advantage of, but that's life, right? But I think Neil's right. I am blessed with the group that surrounds me. Extremely blessed. But for the people, especially when it comes to people giving us money, as that's what we're specifically talking about with regard to you at the moment, Len. When it comes to things like that, I wouldn't be running the channel. At the moment, it is just dog shit, right? I earn peanuts from YouTube, right? I used to earn enough to cover the mortgage. That was all I wanted YouTube to do, actually. That was kind of the ad revenue I want to cover the mortgage. And it doesn't anymore. It's like shit. It's got horrendous. Now, I can increase my output, but ultimately speaking, it means I'm then more reliant on people like yourself giving me money because the ad revenue is not coming, so therefore I've still got to pay the mortgage. So without it, I'm screwed. But it's been like that for 12 years. I've always been on the cusp of, maintaining the YouTube paying the mortgage. And don't get me wrong, for a few years it did. It's only in recent, maybe in the last 12 months or maybe longer, I lose track, that it's dipped below, what I want it to bring in. A lot of that was because of doing the stupid book. You know what I mean? I haven't been making really shit hot videos to keep the ad revenue up. Speaking of which, right, and I've been waffling, I've just released a members only video that I'm quite proud of that was taken from yesterday's show. So right at the start of the live show, I break down about 5 different subjects related to anti-globism, flat earth measurements, NDT, Simon Dan, Thunderfoot, the map reading company. There's a whole bunch of things that got covered in the space of about 20 minutes. And I thought, that's a wonderful little video that I can turn that into. And I did have time to do it. So, I managed to actually get it out and published just before starting this now. So, I feel like I'm occupying my time with the things that I like doing, making videos, basically, because I'm not doing the book anymore.
It's been nice to see these little shorter form videos that people can just sink their teeth into.
Yeah, exactly. I know what my audience wants. I've been doing this long enough. And, I know people appreciate occasionally sticking on a live stream or even an Uncut and after show and sitting through it all. Don't get me wrong, that is an appealing prospect to quite a high chunk of people who are subscribed or members. But ultimately, to reach the masses, and me, right? I've got a short attention span. I do doom scroll on the shorts videos. I'm not going to deny it, right? There are certain points in the day that you just want to veg out, and that's a means to doing that. It's, brainless scrolling. But, great. So you've got to have a certain amount of content that you can put out in that format. Admittedly, I tend to chew through the full 3 minutes. But ultimately, I think you've got to have that content constantly being churned out if you're going to become any sort of success on the YouTube platform. So, but I can do that now. I'm not constantly dedicating my time to writing and editing the book.
You know what a lot of your fans want as well that you might not like to do?
Me stripping? Like a little pole dance or something?
No.
OnlyFans?
No, that's degenerate.
No! I am very offended. Get out. How dare you? There's a lot of people that like the look of this hunky
They want
body.
you to go to some of these other Discords and deck some Globers in the face.
I've said that okay, right. To satisfy those people, that's going to happen. When I'm out, I'm very fickle when it comes to my standards, when it's me promoting my own material, right? Plug. That'll be what I'm interested in. I'll be slightly self-centered. Now, in the process of that will mean that certain means that people got to whip the lion, me being the lion, will be facilitated because I'm looking to achieve something. Yeah? Now, that means that at some point I'll end up in a server with some tosser or on a channel with some wanker, and that's going to happen. It's inevitable, right? So fear not, right? You'll see that. But that, which I'm trying to avoid, I'll be honest, I don't want that. It's just very irritating. I'd rather deal with pleasant people. But in amongst the pleasant people will be the unpleasant. That's always the way the world works. And for the guys that want to see me being the circus lion getting whipped and eating the ringleader or whatever you call him, ringmaster, biting his head off, then that will happen. Yeah, you'll see me absolutely tearing a strip off some total wanker who's been introduced. Surprise! Globe-believing asshole to talk to. Oh, I thought I was here to talk about my book. And then before I finish that sentence, the person who they brought on's interrupting me. That'll happen. And yeah, they'll get chastised and they'll have a strip taken off them. And it might happen in a Discord server. I've already had AI Overlord who banned me for racism and then had me calling him a racist in consequence, which is kind of tit for tat nonsense. But I would have assumed that meant he was negative towards me. It turns out not the case. He's actually said, if you want to promote your book on my platform, you're welcome to, which I was humbled by, I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit taken aback by that. Good. It shows good character on the part of AI. Now, he also showed a bit of a narcissistic streak towards the people who stole my book from me by setting in opposition one against the other and putting them in reverse roles, which I thought was quite funny, if a little bit narky. But just before that, we'd had Neil calling him a scutch. So, these things, we know these people, right? I know AI Overlord. I know he'll hear me describing him and have a little chuckle to himself while I'm describing that. But that'll happen. It will happen. I'll be out on a tour promoting my book when it comes out, which I cannot wait. I'm really, really excited for when it comes. I just can't contain myself. And I don't want to piss the publisher off by pestering him. Like I say, I've kept him waiting for a couple of years. I'm sure it has a certain level of expectation that once I've got a response, which we have, it's not like he's not been in communication, that I'll just sit and wait patiently for him to do whatever he's doing. And I'm not going to ask him what. He's just doing his due diligence. I'm in no doubt. Anyway. You'll get what you want. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll love to see you in worldwide debates or other servers debating these guys. It'd be great.
The way to facilitate that is to find out who is the main man in that particular arena, get their email address and send it to me, or give it to somebody who you are in communication with via an instant messaging service of some description and give them it to give to me if you can't get it to me directly, right? But if I've got their email address and their intent to publicise my book, that's to say assist in that process, then they can go on the mailing list and I can contact them, and then that arrangement can be made via that particular means. But if they're not, that's to say it's just somebody who says, oh, you should go on this Discord server. Yeah, I'm going to be busy, right? If I haven't got their email of a specific contact that needs to be the person to facilitate that in some meaningful way, then that just won't happen. So if you're keen, just get me someone's email address and tell me who they are, and they'll receive a press release from me.
Well, you've been there before. Riggs owns the server, right?
Yeah. Did you not hear what I just said? No, I'm not going to spend my time chasing these people. I just need their email address, and then they'll go on the mailing list. And then, yeah, I might start communication with them. But I'm going to be chasing 100+ people with information about this. So to one at a time isn't going to be the case. I can't do that. I'm one man, right? I'm going to be, again, going back to giving my wife on PayPal's when I'm asking her to help me with this, because there aren't enough hours in the day. You know, it's driven both of us to distraction for the last couple of years. It's caused a fair degree of poverty. Like, I can't increase my workload by going, oh, I need to get in touch with this guy at some random server that I've been on once or twice or whatever. It's like, no. If you want me, great. You know, if you want me in this server, all you need to do, if you're the one who's desiring me to be chastising ball believers in a server somewhere, is find out somebody who I can send my press release to, and then they'll get back in touch and go, I'm from XYZ server. You sent me a press release about your book coming. Would you like to be on a part of an event where you tell the server about the book and where it's available? And I'll go, yeah, of course. Now, if they get in touch and go, do you want to come on and debate book? I'll go, fuck you. Pay me. And they'll be like, what? And I'll be like, pay me. Well, no, I got a press release through about promoting your book. Well, that's not what you've asked me about. You've asked me to come and be a lion. So pay me or piss off. Or what you are interested in helping me out promote my book. Brilliant. Yeah. Then I'll get into communicado with these people. But I've got to prune them out, not contact them one at a time proactively. I just won't have time to do that. Once it's out, it'll be all to the grindstone, right? Trying to get out there to be on shows to talk about the book and get it out to the wider audience. Now, no offense to Discord, it's the narrower audience. Yeah. So it's going to be right low down the priority list, far from me wanting to proactively fulfill your desire to have me in some server. No offense to you.
So you want them just to email you, basically? Is that the best?
No. Third time's charm. Get me their email address and I will add them to the list of people to be sent to be sent a press release about the book, about becoming potentially earning money from me. Rather than, you know, me saying, pay me if you want me to come and debate your stupid little tossers with Batman logos on their shirts. If you're going to potentially have me on your show to promote the book, you can earn money from me. You can earn a commission. You can be an affiliate. But they'll get all that information in a press release. See what I mean? So I just need them to have a contact, a specific point of contact with email, so they can receive the information and be told, like everyone else will, you could earn 30% of this book that this individual, Nathan Oakley, wants to promote on your platform if we can facilitate that and arrange it in some meaningful way. Yeah?
Yeah, I got you. So you want me to email you their email and then you'll put it on the list.
I just need to be provided with. I don't mind if it's you that provides me with their email address or someone else that you contact. So if you were to say, I haven't got your email or I haven't got your IM, but I've got Neil's, then send it to Neil and he will just forward it through one of the groups that I'm affiliated with. But my main point is that in the imminent future, in the next, let's say, week or two, I keep saying it's going to be a week or two. I've been saying that for 2 months. Nevertheless, in the next week or two, it'll be all hands to the grindstone, and will not. These things will just slip through the cracks. So if it's something that you specifically desire, that will be facilitatable. Yeah, I will still vet them. There's already been the case that people have got in touch with me proactively. Oh, yeah, you want to promote a book? You want to come on my channel? And you go and look at their channel and they're just complete pricks. You're like, sorry, you look like a Batman sniffing wanker to me. Do you want to pay me to come on so you can expose me as the flat? Piss off. Give me money. That's what I'll be like with them when I vet them.
I think you're trying to drag the day out to stretch you out to the summer solstice release.
No, I'll
But
have
it's
it out
only
tomorrow. Like I say, I've sent it off to the publisher. From the point I send it off my desk, I wanted it out that day. Like I say, I've just got to be a little bit more contained, a little bit more patient, right? I'm sure my publisher will eventually get back to me. And it's been about 10 days. It's not exactly been a long time, given that this project was started probably 3 years ago. It might even be bleeding longer than that, right? So it's not like I shouldn't be at least appreciative that he's been kept waiting quite some time for this book. So I'm not going to pester him after 10 days. I've sent him an email, asked him if he's got an ETA, and that was on Monday. I'll leave him to it, and then eventually he'll get back to me, tell me what the ETA is, or presumably just give me a link. I would hope it's the latter. I just don't know when that's going to be. Obviously, that's exciting. I'm on tenterhooks that I'm going to be getting a book out in the whenever, next week or two, I keep saying. So it's a very exciting time. But as I'm saying, right, to Gakshu, or however you say your name, I don't know when that is, but when it is, I will be incredibly busy the moment that happens.
Yeah, I understand. Once you release it, everyone's going to swarm.
Good afternoon.
What's
Good morning,
up?
good afternoon, good evening.
Good afternoon. My wife's not here. Normally I get a privileged cup of coffee but just before I start the live show, and that's not the case today. So I got to about 2 o'clock and I started making coffee and then realised I don't really want to start late just for this cup of coffee. But I'm hoping you guys, now the coffee machine is actually warmed up, can keep the conversation going for at least, I don't know, 2 minutes while I make myself a cup of coffee. Is that a possibility, so I can be caffeinated throughout this live show?
Yeah, I'm sure we can talk about sea level or something along them lines.
I'm only in the next room, so I can hear you, and it's just I don't want you necessarily subject to all the noises my coffee machine makes.
Yeah, so what was you saying then, Neil? Sorry, no, not on that bit. What was we talking about in the pre-show?
I stumbled across a video of McToon addressing John since, well, Quantum Eraser, since his ego made him put his real name out there after cultivating his brand of Quantum Eraser for however many years. But McToon's just been talking about his copyright claims, how he doesn't like his image being used, and various things. It was quite entertaining, to be honest.
Come on, get into the real deal. Nathan, did you ever see what he looks like? He is the quintessential dweeb.
Oh,
I'll have to
really?
watch this.
You got it on who he is, huh? In person.
If that picture is who he is the dweebs that we mock here. That's him.
Ooh.
Keyboard typing, you know? That's why he is the way he is. Oh, my goodness. Now I'm going to get a message. We could take a boat ride and meet me in Missouri. Yeah, okay. What a dweeb.
Yeah, you can tell what the cologne he wears is, right? Yeah, it's called desperation.
Okay, fun though it is talking about the people who've thieved from me. We don't have to necessarily talk about book-related stuff, or necessarily in the next couple of weeks, let's just say, flat earth-related stuff. So when I see other YouTubers doing well on YouTube, it is often the case that they'll just cover random stuff that they're particularly interested in to give the audience an idea of what sort of forms their opinions and how they react to certain circumstances. So as an example, right, I typically draw a few examples to spinsters, right? Women who have hit the wall. Well, you might go, what does he mean hit the wall? Well, that's a terminology that's come from people like Taylor the Fiend and a channel called Hitting the Wall about women who pass their 30s and are past their best. Well, I can then draw upon the examples that they make when they're using those particular women to make a specific generalisation about society. And I can cross-reference it with the people that we deal with. I'm not saying that, all of the Batman t-shirt wearing wankers we have to deal with are comparable to women, but there are plenty of examples where that is the case, by generalisation and stereotype. So for that reason, it might be the case that over the next coming weeks, while I'm waiting for the book to come out and have the publisher do whatever due diligence he has to do without me pestering him to ask why or what or when. I've already asked when. I'm sure he'll get back to me within due course to tell me when there's going to be a publication date. But that does mean that there's a bit of limbo, which from one perspective is excellent because it means that I can now produce videos. It's the bit I love, right? Producing videos. I'll get to my point in a minute about those videography YouTubers who produce content about men and women. I'll get to Pearl in a second. But there's an opportunity to not necessarily focus in this, what's the word? It is the genuine calm before the storm, right? I was saying in the pre-show that there's going to be a lack of time for me to be proactively chasing people who I could potentially be on their show or in their Discord server or whatever. You know, might even go out to radio, who knows, the dizzying heights that I might achieve when promoting my own material. But I'll be very much up against the wall in my own capacity, not hitting the wall, because I'll have a lack of time when I'm trying to promote those things. Right, but now we're in that limbo period where I haven't got to do anything. I'm not editing or writing. The only job I've currently got is producing YouTube content. I've got half a dozen mics left on eBay that just aren't selling. I'm not running around posting things or purchasing. So I've just got this. This is my only job at the moment. It's like only having one job's a massive relief. I mean, I still get up and immediately start replying to comments and in today's case editing videos, which is what I'll plug now. So if you're a member of mine, there's, what did I title it? Copyrights and Coriolis. That's what I called it. And it's a video that examples the Coriolis effect via Simon Dan as an example for an anti-flat earther, to juxtapose him with a normie, that's the map reading company, descending into becoming an anti-flat earther, equivalent to Simon Dan, with examples thrown in for good measure from Neil deGrasse Tyson when comparisons to the relinquishment of heliocentric rhetoric by Simon Dan when it comes to Coriolis effect, hence the title, and Neil deGrasse Tyson's examples being of the rhetoric of a sphere Earth that's being relinquished. Also, in the mix, we've got a bit of Thunderfoot, because the examples of science being incorrectly utilised to assert things like gas go south, go boom boom. So all of it's tied nicely together in a fairly lengthy video. It's about 20 minutes long, with a lot of moaning about me and the treatment I get, like a bleating bitch. Saying, I get copyright strikes, people send social services and the police round. Now, while that's true, it's still me moaning, right? Anyway, I thought it was quite a good video, and I have the opportunity to actually go through it and edit it in a meaningful way. You know, put little cuts in when I'm intonating certain points so that I'm getting closer to camera, you know, in the edit, which is just something that keeps the ADHD generation intrigued with the video when the picture's bouncing in and out. But I've got the time to do such things. And today, what I want to do is I'm going to dig out a video from the list of videos that I do actually cover that isn't in any way necessarily related to the subject of flat Earth. It's more at the bottom of the barrel, low brow, dealing with people. But this seems like the right opportunity, I'll round out my point, while you guys are talking about some dude, admittedly, could be connected to the story of flat Earth because it's somebody who's wronged me. But without sounding too much like that bleating bitch, I'd rather talk about other bleating bitches who hit the wall at 30, because that's more amusing. So we'll get to Pearl once we've had a little discussion about not necessarily covering in complete focus the flat Earth or anti-globe rhetoric that we typically do. Camera's too low.
Listen, it's not that we want to talk about it. It's just that he keeps trying to bullshit the people and, tell a different story. Like, we're silent until we hear his stupid ass mouth.
Oh, we covered this yesterday. This is so 24 hours ago. I mean, if you want to hear my rhetoric in regards to people thieving my material, just go to yesterday's show. You know, it's time to move on, though. It's a bit yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm saying that we have. But, he keeps, and I agree. That's what we should do. My wife was saying he's doing that because, he needs attention and he wants to hear, anything. As long as he's being talked about, he'll be happy. But I can't get over it. He's a freaking dweeb.
Yeah, well, like I say, there's plenty more fish in the sea. I don't know. I'll tell you why I like to relate to these videos, right? I'm one of the scumbags in the stories that get told by these dating channels. So in these dating channels, when they're talking about women specifically and the types of men that they go after, whenever the stories are told, I always relate to the guy who's not having to pay for any dates, that's getting women to come to him, that's just sleeping with them and then telling them he's not really that interested in them. That was me when I was doing that in the dating scene. So you listen to the betas and gammas moaning and the incels whining, and you go, yeah, I remember telling everybody that they should all be on dating sites, because in my own naive way, I assumed that my experience was the same for every guy that would be on the dating sites. Now, it wasn't. I was the guy that was going, well, you can come round, but I'll be honest, I only really want to sleep with you. Is that okay? You know what I mean? And I was getting away with that because for whatever reason, women were receptive when I was a lot more attractive and younger and had hair for a start than they are obviously now. I'm not in the dating scene, but I can relate to that particular aspect of the, you know, the alpha that's being described, leaving all these alpha widows in his wake and not having any struggles whatsoever to get, you know, meet and greets, or I didn't take women on dates, I just got to come round here. I mean, that's not true. I did drive to various different places when I was trying to, you know, pick up women. But my point is that there's a certain relation that I can have in terms of the attitudes, and look back initially when I first figured this out in horror, but ultimately with amusement when you especially listen to the people who waste their lives, right? So that's the main comparison that I feel when we're currently talking about the rhetoric being inconsequential, right? There's a certain type of societally led woman that will dedicate her life to becoming a boss bitch. You know, I don't need no man, I can pay my bills. And then they get to a certain age and go, holy shit, I've wasted my prime. Why did I do that? And you're like, well, because society told you to, and you just cucked to it and believed them. Now you're feeling regret and you can't get back the thing that you lost. Now, me, I'm never going to, there's not going to be a single moment in my life that I go, I really regret that moment. Now, I'm just not that type of person. If I don't like doing something or I feel like I'm not being treated in a way that I want to be treated, I'll make it verbally obvious and then you know, you'll know about it and I'll be doing something else very quickly. That's how I am, right? I like to think in a way that if I was hit by a bus tomorrow, I'd go, oh, it's so sweet. Thank you for letting me experience this. It was awesome. Yeah, moment to moment, everything's got to be awesome, like in the Lego movie. If everything is awesome. Well, it is for me. Life's been pretty sweet. I'm delighted with it. But when I reflect and look upon people who pour their scorn and anger and make my life a little bit miserable in certain aspects, I mean, it's wore off a duck's back after 12 years, but at certain stages, wanted to make my life miserable, let's just put it that way. I look at them and go, what are you doing with your life? And then suddenly you can draw the comparisons with the women who wanted to be boss bitches and have some consequence over at a societal level. Like their influence for the beta bitches that are wearing Batman logos that want to convince the world of something that they already believe. That's that they're on a sphere. You're like, you realise you've only got a limited amount of time here, right? What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? Now, I don't want to waste my time with them moving forward. I want to deal with pleasant people. Now, obviously, on the arc of learning how a ball that we're not on, seeming to be important at the seeming top of the curve, eventually turns into Earth being measured flat and the requirements and prerequisites to create that ball being based on them. You go, well, what was I wasting my time? You know, I've said, I never want to look back on a single moment. Well, no, I don't feel so. I wouldn't be at the point that I could look down the barrel of a camera and describe how Earth is measured flat to create sphericity unless I'd gone through that process. Miserable though it was at some stages. And back to the let's have a look at the lowbrow dweebs and geeks and 5'7" little males with Hitler complexes and Napoleon complexes. When we're doing that, we're at the bottom of the barrel, right? We're very lowbrow, but that's where it does get comparable to people in the dating scene. It's base, right? It's sex, drugs, rock and roll, looking for the thrill and the chemistry and the excitement. Those are the kind of words that people are using when they're describing the dating scene. Well, I get all those butterfly feelings from just doing what I do on YouTube. This is an absolute joy. You know, it's nice not to be editing books or flogging stupid microphones. It's nice to be actually just talking to an audience and going, I'm sure there's various aspects of what I'm talking about now that people can relate to. Now, as I say, I'm going to pull up a video in a minute. I'll be talking too long to just identify some of the people in this arena. I've mentioned Taylor the Fiend, but I wanted to cover a video by Pearl that I came across yesterday. So if you guys can talk amongst yourselves for a couple of minutes, I'll see if I can find that video in my history, and then hopefully we can react to it. Let's hope she don't give me copyright strikes.
Sure. Well, if any of you guys are familiar in the chat, there's a guy called Skeptic936. He's been in Nathan's chat for years. He's going to pass by my house today. I'm going to have a little lunch, I suppose.
Nice one.
Yeah. So Skep's a good dude, man. Loyal to the
Maybe not.
bone.
Yeah, good stuff. That'd be good to catch up, mate, and have a chat in real life.
Yeah, if I get to meet somebody that, and I don't think he's ever been on the show. I don't know. Nathan can correct me
No, he
if
hasn't.
I'm wrong when it comes back. He hasn't, right? Just active in chat and then texting back and forth. But he has some videos. Got a little channel where he videotapes some of the stuff that he does. But yeah, I get to meet him today, so that's cool.
Some of these ballers, though, they are getting confused. I mean, got a guy here who's talking about Earth measurements being, from sea level and angular measurements, and one of his replies is a curve measurement is an angular measurement, and those angle measurements show the angular divergence of zeniths due to the curvature of Earth between the two zeniths. And by the way, heights are not part of those measurements, just angles between the theodolites.
I can't help it. I'm laughing right at the angle. Oh,
I
my
know.
goodness.
He's talking about zenith angles, the height of the theodolites above surface level and sea level, and telling me that this is a curvature measurement.
Because every time I look at an angle, I see a curve. I'm actually looking at my window right now. Yeah, it's curved. At the angle, it's curved.
He's telling me he's measuring angles, but it's a curve measurement also.
That's where the globe gets created, the conflation between those two things. Let's just cover that as you're discussing it, right? We'll get to Pearl in a second. When you're describing how Earth has sphericity, you're essentially conflating the elevation angle, which is, as these two chaps on my panel are discussing, two straight lines, one being the baseline, one being the line up to the star or sun or whatever you're measuring an elevation angle for, and the vertex point that those two straight lines meet at, right? Well, if you look at how all of the potential measurements have an arc, that is where you can conflate measurements of things like Polaris into a system in the Northern Hemisphere for latitude. So when you look at the arc that you measure that star with, you can draw from its GP circles of equal elevation or circles of equal altitude that decrease as you that increase in size, the angle decreases towards the horizon, and increase the size of the areas of equal elevation as you move towards the equator, or decrease as you move towards the North Pole. Meaning if you've got a very slim angle from your position, you've got a very small circle of equal elevation. But if it's at your zenith, back as you have the Polaris star at your zenith and you back away from it, it will decrease towards the horizon, increasing the circles of equal elevation, right? Well, if you then take those circles that are getting bigger and concertina them down, you can now imagine on a globe the lines of latitude moving down what is now spherical by conversion. Now, that process is just describing angle measurement to Polaris in a North Pole-centric system that then has the curve of the protractor representing an alleged curve of the surface. There we go. Got there in the end through a bit of stuttering. It's because I'm trying to focus on bringing Pearl up. Let's do that now. Oh, has the computer crashed? No, there we go. Why isn't that working? Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, why it's black for me? You can see it in the Hangout, but it's not represented to the audience. How wonderful. Again.
What do you say, John? Sorry?
There we go. Go ahead.
Okay, John was trying to say something, but he's just hopped out. It's okay.
Right, we'll get our response from Refracted Curvature, and then we'll move on to Pearl, who I've linked in the chat. So if you're in the live stream chat, there is a link going back to Pearl, and like I say, we'll cover what she covers when we're responding to it. I'll put myself on camera so I don't get any copyright strikes. Go ahead, John.
The guy that was just struggling measuring two flat planes of the auto, you may put forward. There's two flat planes. Say that because
Yeah, you got to drop and rejoin.
Yeah, I think you might need to turn your router on or off. Maybe it's your internet connection because your router needs to be restarted. Occasionally, your internet connection just needs restarting at the router. Maybe that's what the problem is because it's been the last couple of days, which tends to suggest that you've got like a full buffer or whatever in the router. So maybe restart that. Take him a while. Posted a link to
because I like to hear from John. I think he says things that need to be heard, and it's always breaking up.
Yeah, it's one of those. Not the end of the world. So we will hear from him momentarily.
You remember the commercial when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen? When refracted curvature speaks, the panel listens.
Do you want to try again, John?
Can you hear me any better?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Unplugged it and plugged it back in real quick. The theodolite argument that was just put forward, where you measure one theodolite and it's higher or lower at the same elevation than the other one, or appears to be anyway. That's two flat planes you measure from each theodolite, and then that degrees, the amount of degrees that you change the angle of the planes you're measuring, it then becomes reciprocal zenith angles. So yeah, you're still measuring a flat Earth for that.
Yes.
Exactly. Yep. But they just take the apparent difference between the two theodolites as it's because the Earth's curved. We've not measured any curvature. We're just assuming this. We're just assuming because there appears to be a difference in angle or height or whatever they're saying, reciprocal zenith angles, that it's down to the Earth's curvature, which we've never measured. But we're just going to presume that it's that.
Oh, wait a second. You mean to tell me that Earth is not freaking exactly perfectly level from one end to the other, and that you might get a deviation at some point? So now it's curvature? Nice try.
Right, I want to check and see if everyone can hear Pearl.
Welcome to my coffee talks.
You hear her say welcome to my coffee talk? About Discord.
We can hear Pearl.
Did you hear her in Discord, Pearl? That is. Hello?
Yes, we did.
You did? Thank you, Diego. Right, so this is Pearl.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Feel free to respond as well if you're in Discord and you want to make a comment on what she's saying. Feel free. So, as referenced earlier, Pearl often... She's in a little bit of a unique category because she's critical of women and she's a woman. So where Hitting the Wall and Taylor the Fiend and various other manosphere, that side of channel is critical of women in the dating market for their male-orientated reasons. Pearl admittedly often aligns with their male-orientated views in that regard, but she's obviously unique because she's criticising women as a woman. So there we go. That's why I think it's a good reference to have. And plus, I like Pearl. I think she's very amusing. And she's been screwed over by YouTube over the last couple of years. She was completely demonetized. And you think, oh, wow, you've managed to stick it out and keep doing your YouTube thing. And to her own financial detriment as well, so I can totally relate. Now she's back at it and she's putting out like 2 or 3 videos a day at the grindstone, being a YouTuber. Presumably now she's back to being monetized. She can actually start earning a living from it. So I've got a lot of time for Pearl, I've got to be honest. Like I say, more importantly than anything, like with any YouTube content producer, me included, people just want to know that she's focused on the subject that she covers, and she does do that well. So I'm sure people have reasonably... You might have seen her face in debate on various other channels as she was getting out and making her name. So you may be familiar with Pearl, you may not. But either way, I've put a link to her video in this instance, so if you did want to go and subscribe to her, you will be entertained by her at the very least. You might be outraged if you're female. We'll see. But anyway, this is Pearl, so we'll check it out. Feel free to interrupt if you have any comments in this regard.
So today I wanted to talk about a change of mindset that I had from when I was younger to now. When I was younger, there was a lot of instances where people that I felt like I was very good to betrayed me. And I think this is a concept in most people's life. You know, we have a tendency as people to be very egotistical, always viewing ourselves as the heroes and never viewing ourselves as the villain.
Truth, justice, and the American way. I am Batman.
At least women in general, and I'm a woman, so, you know, let's not pretend I don't fall prey to some of this. And when I was young, I remember there was an instance where this girl, I thought she was my friend, right? And it turned out that she was talking trash about me, and my parents had a very big house growing up, and she said that she was only friends with me for my parents' house. Can you believe it, right? There's also an instance, I've talked about it a lot, where there was a guy that I was friends with in London. I thought we were the best of pals. And he came out and said that I was had a colonial mindset or some stupid shit like that.
So straight away, can you see why I've picked this? Being betrayed, people you perceive to be friends. It's in keeping with the common theme that we're currently dealing with, right?
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
And this was a guy that worked for me for a few years. I really viewed him as a friend. I even invited him to like my birthday party and like, you know, friendly, right? I guess he said he did not view me as a friend. I was like, well, it's news to me, right? And
people are so fickle.
Then he made like videos trying to like expose me. You know, it was this whole thing. And I was like, my guy, I've given you so much opportunity, right? You know, and
yeah, I should totally relate. You're lost for words. Exactly. It's back to the Joe Pesci scene. You only exist out here because of me. Do I? Really?
I was very hurt. And this was kind of a theme until my mid-20s where there was another person who stole a camera from me. And again, I thought we were friends. They stole a camera. Do you know what I mean? It's incredible. And what I realized is that I thought I was a victim because these people like took. But
again, back to me referring to myself as being a bit of a moaning bitch in the video that's currently members only. It's like moaning about people sending the police round, moaning about people giving me constant copyright strikes, moaning about people sending social services round, or people suggesting that I should jump off tall buildings measured off sea level to the millimetre accuracy, all those sorts of things. Me whinging, basically.
In all actuality, there's a few things. One, I was too weak in order to call them out when things were a little off or a little weird, and I allowed them to gaslight me.
Yep, totally relate. There's times when you expose your own weakness, and that's when the monsters, predators, con men, that's when they pounce. Not when you're at your strongest, when you're at your weakest, right? When you're vulnerable. For me, it's being poor. Now, for whatever reason, she hasn't exposed her own vulnerabilities in terms of the whys and wherefores, but you can, I'm sure, relate.
There were times where I've called, I said, you were talking about me, and the girl do what women do is they say, no, I wasn't, I didn't say that. And you're like, you know, they didn't like me, they didn't respect me, et cetera, et cetera. It's supposed to be like this. But when I put another person above me and I want their whatever, friendship, validation, more than I want to do what's right or to follow God or I don't know, whatever. It means you're making them a god, right? You're making the friendship a god, you're making the relationship a god, and you just can't do that. Because it's kind of like scammers that scam people, they're evil people, they're takers, etc.
Where she says scammers, I say confidence tricksters, con men, same thing.
However, they're victims, quote unquote. In a way, they wanted to get rich quick or they wanted something easy.
Right. And when Pearl's normally referencing this back to people who get screwed over in relationships, she's like, you've just got to take the L. You assessed that person badly. In the same instance, she's not saying it, but I'll say it on her behalf because it's the point she's making. It's her bad for letting somebody who was untrustworthy in her presence that ended up stealing a camera from her, right? I did the same thing only a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, this is an L for me, right? My vulnerability in requirement of help to produce material has led to that material being stolen.
Hold on. That's kind of harsh. Come on. How are you supposed to know? What are you supposed to have, foresight?
Yeah.
There's a certain thing called trust, and over years, people build the trust. They didn't just come in last week, Nathan. Come on now.
Yeah, people are too trusting. You've got to build up a relationship to acquire trust with people. That's what con men do. Confidence. You can only acquire confidence by building up what you call trust. Same thing.
More than or they were too lazy to read the contract. Whatever it is, there was a character flaw in them too. So victims aren't always victims. Now, number 2, flaw in this thinking. It's egotistical to think that you can control another person.
Right. Yeah. I've been saying this recently in terms of the actual subject matter, right? It's egotistical to suggest that I can have an influence over people's belief in what Earth does. People aren't led by logic. They're led by their heart. They're led by their own cognitive biases that they're seeking to affirm as opposed to have proven wrong. So it's delusional to believe that you can influence people in this regard. Furthermore, for us, even if we could, it wouldn't have any bearing on what the world is in terms of how it's measured. So to say, I'm going to influence the world to understand how flat it is. No, don't be so egotistical. But moreover, it's measured flat anyway. And me deciding to tell the world that their incongruence with a sphere belief is something they need to pay attention to won't alter how flat Earth is measured from sea level for altitudes, elevation angles, mapping, surveying, building, navigating. Those things are always flat and always were.
Yeah, but I think it's different with that, Nathan. Hold on a second. I think it's a little different with that. We're not saying we're going to change the world, but there's been an obvious takeover of what the real creation is. And if we, with the measured flat, people, the penny could drop on them, then it's just taking back what God had already created in people's minds. They no longer have to believe they're living on a spinning water ball, but they could actually know that it's flat. Why? Because it's measured that way. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that other than the people who've been put into the little pond of anti-flat Earth, that's globe belief, versus globe, that's anti-globe, otherwise known as being a flat earther, are left in a position where they're arguing the toss and feeling like they are consequential. A lot of the people we come across are currently bracing against us from our own side because we want to take away their ability to feel like they can lord it over next man when they understand heliocentrism, so therefore can demonstrate how the world is not a sphere. When I come along and go, well, it's measured flat anyway, not only is it measured flat anyway, you need to measure Earth flat to achieve ball faith. Therefore, there is no consequence to us having this discussion. Everyone must accept the flat Earth measurements anyway. Therefore, you are just a fart sniffer if you're trying to wake people up to the facts in the matter. They're inconsequential to your belief in them or next man's belief in a ball. You know, you might slip into cognitive dissonance if someone like me comes along, like with Wayne from the map reading company, where I point out that his necessity to measure Earth flat to make money from selling people courses in mapping would be incongruent or inconsistent with his sphere belief, as pointed out by Jin, CBR1.
Actually downright psychotic to believe that people are going to be good to you because you were good to them. If I'm good to a person, I do my best to be good to them. I don't always do this, right? I can be spiteful, I can be wicked, but if I behave in an ideal way, which I don't at a lot of times,
See, that's where Pearl and I differ. I am basically perfect.
You want to, their behavior should have nothing to do with you. When Jesus came down, I'm not even that religious, but this.
Now, I'm not that religious either, but the point previous is what I'm going to focus on. How they behave should be inconsequential to you, right?
It just makes sense to me. Jesus came down and he offered nothing but goodness. He said, I'm going to be good to people. And they're killing him on the cross, right? And he's forgiven these ninjas. He's forgiven them. And I was thinking about it, and it's because his kindness was not dictated on other people, and he was not a weak person. He was brave enough to say like when something was right or something was wrong or what he thought. And I think when you're a kid, you're like naturally good is like kind of my assumption. You are a good, because when kids are young,
I don't know. When I
don't know about that.
I was going to say, I know plenty of naughty kids. They're just not good.
If she means pure at heart, maybe.
they like
Think about the sorry about threat. I mean, you could be somebody's friend for years, and you are friends, but until a certain thing happens, then the friendship is broken. But before that, you was both all friends. So it doesn't mean that you wasn't really friends. Maybe, if something, if we're talking about a certain situation, everybody was friends and thought they was friends, but then something has altered at some time.
Yeah, they broke the trust.
To break that friendship. Does that mean that you was never friends?
No, it means that maybe you were a friend and you held the friendship higher than they did, because maybe they just did not give a crap.
And I really do think mothers ruin their kids. You'll naturally say you're fat or you're old or you're black or you're white, but you don't say it with any hatred in your heart. But kids are very observant, and they will say what's in front of them until the world tells them like not to talk like that. And it's usually not the world, it's just women to some degree. It's the mother's mad because she says, the kid says, Mama gets angry all the time. And the mom gets mad at the kid for saying that, like observing the behavior, you know what I mean? So anyways, just in my experience, Jesus and me and you.
Hopefully you've got some comments while there's an unskippable ad or two.
Yeah, she's a little off on Jesus, but we'll let her go on. She said she's not that religious. Neither am I.
Well, you are definitely very religious, but she isn't, and neither am
No,
I.
no,
and
no.
I can make that claim. My point is, she's using Jesus as an example, and she'll get to his point, which is why I'm not particularly concerned about defending her lack of Christianity or a heightened Christianity, whichever way you want to view it. I'm not too concerned about that, because she's using it as an example. You'll hear it in a minute.
No, but what I'm saying is I'm not religious. I'm not. Religion means return to bondage, the original root word. It's rules and regulations. I'm in a relationship. And what I mean by her with Jesus is he came more to, yes, he was good and he did good for all, but he came for more than that. He wasn't good to the Pharisees, was he?
That's our Jesus,
no, he
right?
showed.
Go ahead. I was just skipping through the ad.
Nope. So no, I was just agreeing with Neil on when Jesus was smashing up the temples and things like that. Yeah, so he did have his certain ways about him.
Why was he smashing it up? Because there was con men in there, conning people.
We all behave in a worse way than God. There's no way, unless you are a narcissistic psychopath, there's no way you think you behave better than Jesus. Jesus could not get people to be nice to him, respect him, and treat him well. In fact, they crucified Jesus. Now, I don't even like making this comparison because I'm a woman, so my flaws are like here, you know what I mean? And Jesus's flaws were here. But if Jesus himself came down and couldn't get people to respect him, treat him well, and not betray him, who the hell are you?
That's the main point I wanted to get across from this particular video, hence me pausing on it. Not that I've got any particular comment. She kind of speaks for herself in this regard, and she's making a great point.
Maggie, the substitute teacher, she actually said something like this to me in a different context once. She said about converting people. I used to, and I think this was egotistical, I used to think that everybody needed to hear conservatism and it would free them and blah, blah, blah. And that was a very egotistical way to think, right? That I can control, it's controlling, right? I can control the behavior of another person by giving them information. You can't.
So,
Yeah, we've all done that, haven't we? Sorry, Nathan.
well, we call it fart sniffing, don't we? I can control
Yeah, but
next
even
man
like-
by
not-
passing this information on
not
about
so
how
much-
heliocentric the world isn't. Like, can you? No, you can't. People don't respect logic. People go with their heart and affirm their own biases and will seek to go through the process of cognitive dissonance so long as it affirms their biases. But yeah, assuming that you can make people believe what you understand is the case anyway, just through rhetoric, it's just nonsense. It's egotistical, if I'm to use the same word she did. Go ahead, One Deck.
Just agreeing, and then not so much now, but and I think a lot of us have been through that. I did, especially in the early years of finding Flat Earth. Thought it was my mission to go and tell people this and change their mind, make them realize, force this upon them, because I had to tell them, and they will listen, and then they will know also that the Earth is flat and they don't live on a globe. But like you're saying more recently, it's just the way it's measured. You don't have to convert people. You know what I mean?
Cannot. I've done the street interviews, I've done the fighting. Impossible. You cannot do this. And in a way, it's thinking that you are above, like me as a woman of all people, right, is above Jesus. You think you're better than God. And she said, something along the lines, I can't remember. She does not care about converting people. And in fact, that's a way to show femininity, because wanting to convert someone else is controlling. It's, I want to control what they do.
I totally agree, right? Yeah, I do feel like I feel more feminine when I'm not converting people.
And that's not feminine. And so in my thought process before...
Good.
My wife, who just happens to be very feminine, says all the time to the kids when they say something's not fair, she says, well, they crucified Jesus, and what did he do? You talk about fairness or anything like that, we don't have the context to decide things like that.
Precisely. Who are you moaning, you little bitch? Shut up. Get hold of yourself.
Before, I thought, well, if I'm nice to people, they'll be nice to me. And...
Wrong.
One, that's trying to get something out of people. And really the best people that you gravitate back towards are the people that expect nothing. The people that are just kind, and they don't even need you to be kind. That's what Jesus did, right?
Right. So other than doing what I do, right, we started the show out thanking Len, who's on the panel at the moment, because he's donated money to both me and another panel member, Neil. Right, very, very generous soul. Kept me in the ability to keep my wife helping me edit my book. Most recently, Len was there with contributions consistently, so I could do so. Has he asked for anything in return? No. Like I say, I make these YouTube videos regardless of Len, no offence to him. So he's not like he's getting something extra at me. He's not asked for a thing. That's the kind of people that Neil was talking about at the beginning of the show, if you're watching on the Uncut and After show, or you remember. And you remember or recall Neil saying, the people who you surround yourself with, Nathan, are outstanding. There's so many good people in this panel. That's to say in my back chats, Master B, whatever we refer it to, else like this, the internal panel. Not like those scumbags in Discord. I'm only joking.
Right? So, you can say your Christian values or whatever and have no care about the outcome of other people. And when you start to think like this, it's actually very freeing. Even being more honest with people, because I kind of found this weird persona in a way where I could be very honest on camera and talk about like X, Y, and Z and talk about my beliefs, because it was kind of an environment that you know, you're on shows and stuff where they say, what is your opinion?
You see, we could past tense relate to this when we were talking about our beliefs in flat Earth, but this is where we kind of deviate from her rhetoric in this particular video, which is going to happen eventually. Can't really knock the fact that at least 80% of the video we're in complete agreement with her on every single aspect of every point that she's made so far. You can't deny this is a perfect parallel for us currently. Brilliant video by Pearl. But at this point, this is where we deviate, because she's talking about her beliefs that she's expressing in debate when she's out on the street, doing what she's doing, interviews with people, Piers Morgan, whatever, right? We don't have that anymore. Past tense, we could have agreed with her. But now it's like, how am I going to express a belief in what North is? That's North. It's not a belief, it's not up for debate. Same goes for what I described earlier, although stuttering my way through it. Elevation angle measurements to Polaris. You know, flat baseline, angle to the star. It is what it is. It's not really up for discussion. I'm not expressing a belief in elevation angles. You know, that's just what they are. We measure Earth flat for them. Same goes for miles, right? If you're going to describe miles, what's that? It's measured locally flat. No, it's all measured with miles. It's all flat. Everywhere's measured with miles. But that's not something that's up for discussion. It's just what a mile is and how Earth has been measured. So it's indisputable. So we no longer have this sort of, well, I will adhere to my beliefs and stay true with my persona to them. This is where, as I say, we deviate from Pearl's rhetoric in this specific video. But like I say, you can't really knock the 80% so far that we've agreed with her on, right?
But still, there would be times in my personal life where I would have a harder time being honest, right? And I believe that showed a weakness in my character. But I don't think I'm alone. I think this is a common trope where you just can't... It shows a different level of care and honesty to people when you're honest and you have no care about the outcome. It's like a different type of love.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel towards my audience at the moment, as weird as I'm now back on the bandwagon of agreement with her. It's like my description of being inconsequential to the subject is kind of my care towards the audience. You two can have the release of not caring about what Earth is when you know for sure and without a doubt that it's just measured flat. And always was. And always will be. Suddenly you can breathe a sigh of relief and then go, well, what am I left with? Now, this is also a reason to be despised by some of the people on the inside of this particular small community we call Flat Earth. Like I say, this is a justifiable reason to not like me. When I go, well, we're really inconsequential to this fact. Right, Earth's going to be measured flat moving forward based on the flat Earth measurements that we currently use that were acquired past tense by people who went out and measured it. So it's kind of inconsequential whether or not you understand it, or even if you're in defiance of it. So what? Now, sometimes the defiance of that fact is incongruent, that's cognitively dissonant, with the belief that you're on, say, a sphere, because the sphere's been created with those flat Earth measurements that you're incongruent or disagreeing with, which is your pain, not mine. But like I say, my saying, well, you aren't actually having any bearing on this, no pun intended. You're inconsequential when it comes to Earth and its flat measurements. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or want to cognitively dissonantly adhere to a sphere belief that's inconsistent with the measurements that's creating that sphere. It doesn't change the measurements. So who cares? Do what you like. You don't really matter in this regard. So that's my way of, back on track with Pearl, saying, well, that's my kind of expression of love towards my audience. You too can be apathetic to the cause, because there isn't one. What cause? It's measured flat anyway.
So anyways, this is kind of something I've been like thinking about a lot and attempting to do more of, because I think a lot of people, and I've fallen into this trap, you think you're being moral by not being honest with people.
I don't know. Anybody agree with that? I don't necessarily want to anyway berate her.
What did she say?
To do more of, because I think a lot of people, and I've fallen into this trap, you think you're being moral by not being honest with people.
I've never had that. I've never thought I'm being moral by being dishonest. She didn't say dishonest.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
I don't understand that either.
I do. Like, if someone asks me if I believe it's flat and I tell them no, I'm trying to alleviate their pain by not, entering into debate with them. I know it's flat, but I don't say that. I say, I don't believe it's flat
I
because
was
I
in
don't.
no way dishonest. The question you phrased it with was about your belief in a flat earth. You're asked about your belief and you say no. Well, that's correct. You're not being dishonest. Her sentiment is that you're somehow being noble by being dishonest. That was how it came out. Maybe she's just phrased it poorly.
Yeah, but see, I understand that they're using a category error in their question. I understand what they mean, but I'm playing against what they actually said. That, in a way, to me, is dishonest.
Fair enough.
But
selective honesty, you could call it. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, would you say it's like, when your wife says, does my bum look big in this? Is it that sort of what she's saying?
I don't know my wife's ever asked me that.
To be nice to people.
Nice to be nice even if she's got a giant bum.
Yep. She doesn't want to know that, really. She just wants you to, But, sometimes people don't say the truth because it saves a lot of grief.
I don't relate to that at all, because whenever I've been asked that question, I've said yes if it's the case. I assume that my wife's asking so that if she's out and about and other people are looking at her bum, they don't look at it and go, God, she's got a big bum. So if she happens to wear something that's unflattering, I'll tell her. I wouldn't lie to her. But I mean, that's just me. I know I'll now agree with you. I appreciate that most people, for the sake of having an easier life with their wife that might be a bit of a nag, wouldn't be honest if they were asked that question. But with myself and my wife, if asked that question, I automatically assume my wife does want me to be honest with her, and I am. I have told her, you look like you got a big bum in that particular skirt. Don't wear it. And she's like, right, okay, I'll put something else on then. As opposed to, you bastard, you're saying I've got a big bum, which is what you're getting at, and I get that.
I just thought that was her point, sort of like, somebody starts talking about flat earth and sometimes you're not in the right area or the right environment. You can just pretend like the conversation is not going to happen. So you just say something that's not necessarily true, but just to save an argument, save face, whatever.
Okay, I can kind of relate. So the other day, I think it was on Monday of last week, I was at an animation class with my eldest daughter, and I sit down and I start editing a video, but the iPad was on full blast. When I turned it on, it started playing, and suddenly there's me screaming something about flat earth because it's on full volume while I'm editing it. So that obviously develops a conversation with 2 or 3 other parents around me. And when they asked me what I do on YouTube, because they could tell I was editing a video, I said something like cover geography. And then they asked, well, do your kids get involved with the YouTube channel? I'm like, no, it's too controversial. But at no point did I say, no, I wouldn't want to necessarily involve my kids in my ranting at idiots who describe me as being a child beater. That's not necessarily I want to say to somebody who's in a, animation class sat next to me because they happen to have accidentally overheard me editing a video. So, yeah, I can appreciate what you're saying. I can relate to it on a certain level. But again, I didn't lie, right? I did what John did. I haven't necessarily given them the full and open truth. I've been selective with my honesty. Now, that's not dishonesty, so we're back to square one. But again, I can relate to what Craig's example entails, with your big bum example. And that's what Pearl's saying, which is where you're agreeing with her. And I can take that as read because we can move on.
And
hold on a second, because if you're seeking to deceive by omission, you're just as guilty as commission.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Still a lie.
Totally understand your example, and I agree.
I think when you live like that in a way, it eats at your soul. So I don't know. These are my coffee talks today. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Speaking of which, I will now drop a link to Pearl's video in this regard, and you can let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed by the videographer, in this case Pearl, or by the YouTube algorithmic bots. If you're passive aggressive towards her, please don't be so. But yes, I've dropped a link in the YouTube chat so you can actually go and subscribe to Pearl. I'm sure she would appreciate that. So yeah, there you go. I'll just put that up on screen so you can see it. And yeah, if you are in my YouTube live stream as we speak, go and pop her a comment. Just let her know. Like I say, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, do not be passive aggressive. Do not be vicious in any way. I'm sure she would not appreciate it, but it is nice to let people know that you're picking up new subscribers because people have covered your video without the slightest hint of any disdain, because she's obviously talking about something that's kind of devoid of relevance to our general topic of flat earth and anti-globism. the people involved, etc., etc. So there we go. Please let Pearl know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment. Again, I'm not just saying this for my health. If you are actually watching live, I'll keep doing this plug and call to action while you actually do click on that link and go and let Pearl know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed by her or the algorithmic bots at YouTube. Hopefully a few of you will actually do so. Yeah, like I say, I'm only a recent subscriber to her, so she, for whatever reason, had been recommended to me by YouTube because I was watching stuff like, I say, Taylor the Fiend and Manosphere or whoever, Better Bachelor, things like that, and enjoying watching those sorts of stories about people, lowbrow stuff, admittedly. But, you know, people enjoy different stuff. We cover lowbrow topics like people. That's where I've tried to deviate my panel from talking about people who've stolen from us and deceived us and built up confidence and trust from us, sat alongside us and then stolen from us, me specifically. But rather than talk about them, let's move on to other individuals who are, let's be honest, a lot more easy on the eye, as is the case with Pearl. So, yeah, thank you very much, Pearl. It was really enjoyable listening to your videos. I'm a new subscriber to you. Hope you don't copyright strike me. Any comments from you guys about Pearl and Pearls of Wisdom? Clearly not.
I think she's reached a level of profound honesty that it's kind of everybody's thinking about it, you know, kind of doing some introspection.
Yeah, I like to relate to her because she's had a bit of a time on YouTube. Like, she's built up a reputation, had it taken away from her, struggled financially as a consequence. So there's a lot of different aspects to Pearl that I can directly relate to and empathise with, which as a small YouTuber, making comparison to somebody who's got a couple of million subscribers, you're like, it's nice to be able to empathise on a similar level to her. Now, don't get me wrong, in terms of influence, she's obviously much, much higher up the pecking order than I am. But it doesn't mean that I can't empathise with her as a YouTuber. Like, we have that in common. Good. Nice to focus on normal people.
Did you say she was a small YouTuber?
Say again?
Did you say she was a small YouTuber?
No, she's got a couple of million subscribers.
All right, I was just about to bloody say.
No, far from it. But like anybody who's been demonetized, even if you've got a couple of million subscribers, suddenly it means nothing, doesn't it? You know, suddenly you've got no money coming in from the ad revenue. It wouldn't matter if you've got 50 million subscribers. And like I say, her plight when she was demonetized, I think she used some racist language or something like that. In any event, she was suddenly demonetized and she kept on her staff and kept paying them. And suddenly she's in financial ruin, having to move back in with her parents. So you're like, oh, right, so it did get real right quick then. Hence me saying I can empathise. Like, I'm poor too. I totally get it. It doesn't change how many hours I have to put into YouTubing without even being demonetised. But I can still relate.
Wait,
go ahead.
Wait a second. So you mean to tell me she had to go back and live in the big house that her parents have? The big house?
Yeah. That people liked her just because she's got it. I mean, she had to go back. I think occasionally they made her sleep in the Ferrari in the garage. It was awful for her.
Exactly. When people say big house, they try to say this gorgeous mansion that I lived in as I was growing up because I'm a little rich girl.
I don't think so. I mean, I had a big house in some shit part of Birmingham. You know what I mean? When I was growing up, my parents had a fairly decent house and sent me to a private school. Doesn't alter how poverty-stricken I am now. So, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily a reflection on her saying that she's some spoiled little rich girl. I can certainly attest that I don't get a dime out of my folks. I mean, that's not true. My mum does send me money occasionally. But you know what I mean?
There's one
like
thing I could tell.
I'm kept.
And I could tell money.
Why? Because she's politely spoken?
No. It's just certain mannerisms. I don't know. It's a unique skill I got. Where I could be standing online in a Best Buy, see a guy, like, this guy's money. And sure enough, when I start talking to him, he owns strip malls all over Alabama. You know, where stores come in, people rent to put their store in. He owns the properties. Just the way he was standing, just the way they move, their mannerisms, how sort of like in remember that movie Shawshank Redemption, where Red is analyzing the character played by what's his name? I forgot
Tim
his name.
Robbins.
I'm bad
He
with
describes
names.
him as a tall drink of water with a silver spoon up his ass.
Yeah, something like that. No, but the way he moved, like nothing affected him. You know, when he was describing it, he said, "Yeah, you could say I like Andy from the start." There's a certain thing that you just can tell.
I prefer the Monty
I'm
Python
sure you
example
have
in Holy Grail. He's talking. King Arthur's talking to one of the peasants, and after the discussion, these two peasants are discussing the conversation that they've just had, and the one says to the other one, "He must have been a king." And he goes, "How do you know that?" He says, "Well, he wasn't covered in shit." Yeah, well, he didn't have shit all over him. Any more for any more? Our time is almost up. Well, it is. We haven't had a full hour. More comments? No. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Did you enjoy me covering Pearl? A little bit different for today? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good break in the routine.
I thought so.
But it's on topic. It's on where we're at right now with certain things. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
You were starting to talk about specific individuals. I'm like, oh, well, I had it in the back of my mind that I could cover this if necessary. So I thought, oh, well, why not? If they're going to bring it down to lowbrow stuff about people, then I'll do it via a third party. And at least then, you know, people get introduced to Pearl if they've never heard it before. It's cool. Good show. I enjoyed that. Hopefully the audience did too.
There was somebody in the chat that was trying to get in, was asking how to get on the panel, Discord. So I'm wondering if people were able to guide him on.
Yeah, there's a link
I
below
don't
each
see
video.
him in there, so.
Yeah, the link's below every video. It's easy.
Yeah, but if you're not familiar with Discord, it's not that easy.
I think this might have been one of the most introspective shows talking about other people being assholes.
I agree.
I think the main point.
Yeah, I get what she's saying where, like, who are you? If Jesus was crucified and betrayed and all he did was, he was just nice to people, right? He sat people down at the thousands and fed them when he really didn't have anything to feed them physically, right? He was good. Preached for a while. He said, I can't send these people home. They're hungry. Got to feed them now. Like, how are we going to feed them? We only got a couple of loaves and a couple of fish. No problem. Sit them down, feed them. Oh, there's 12 baskets left over of fish and bread. What do you know? He was a good guy, did good for everybody. And what they do, they nailed him to the cross. The week before, they were saying, all hail King Jesus, right? Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. A week later, crucify him. Yeah, that's people.
It's the feeding of the 5,000.
Yeah, there's a couple of scripture where he fed 5,000, 2,000. Who knows? He feeds the world.
Did you like that? The main point in that video was if some character, if you want to call him that, if you're not religious, can be described in the story as being kind and for the side of right in all instances, in essence, sin-free, and that person can still be strung up, crucified, betrayed by his own friends. What possible hope do you think you've got? You know, get a grip. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Exactly. So in that way, it was good. Take a look and say, because, you know, it is shocking. Because when you're friends and you don't really think about screwing over your friends. But what it does is it opens your eyes to who your friends are. And perhaps were never friends. They were just there for a reason. That's the way it looks like to me.
At least we know why Jesus wept now.
Well, when Jesus wept, you're talking about the portion of scripture, not where he was, come on, getting a phone call in the middle of something. It wasn't in the portion of scripture where he was in the garden agonizing over what he was about to do for mankind. Talking about when they were grieving over the death of Lazarus. And when he looked and he saw how many people loved Lazarus and all the pain they were going through, yeah, it made him weep because it wasn't supposed to be that way. But this is what sin has done. Sin has brought forth death. And what did he do? He just said, Lazarus, come forth. And he came out of the grave, according to scripture.
Right. But his empathy is what was able to do that.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of this is we sometimes have empathy for psychopaths.
Yeah, perfect timing for Len in his typical generous nature to give perfect examples of how kind people can be when Pearl's talking about that. You know, the kindest people often don't want anything back from you, you know. And
yep.
Is both myself and Neil benefiting from one of the fellow members of the panel is just out working hard and then sharing his generous nature with us, not asking for a damn thing in return. Amazing. Perfect timing.
He's been generous to a lot of people on the panel, and I know we're all grateful for that. And he's not asking for anything back in return, right? So he's a good guy that sees a need and says, let me help, I can help, sometimes to his own detriment. I'm really trying to figure the whole thing out. I still rehearse it in my mind, and I'm trying to figure out. But the only thing I come up with is some people are just scumbags, Nathan. There's nothing you could do about it. That's all there is to it.
It took time and constant reiterations of certain things that weren't true to in the mind of the people who did it, believe that somehow they were entitled to something they weren't.
Yeah, scumbag. Totally opposite from Len.
We all seek the same thing. We all seek social acceptance. And often the worst punishment is being extradited, if that's the word, you know, kicked out from a group. Because most people want to be part of a group. Now, often there's people who just don't care, as Neil described earlier. They didn't care about you to begin with. But they'll often affect others around them. And that, I think, is Neil's biggest gripe with the current circumstances. You keep describing it as putting people in a position where they have to choose. Like that's the equivalent, isn't it? That's the description. Now, for the people who just don't care, they're just looking for their own admiration so they can sniff their own farts. They're not interested in other people's position that they're put in.
Yes, exactly. The other thing is, I don't understand, but people are looking for social acceptance, which certain people had. And they were willing to sacrifice that because of greed, pride, and envy. And then there's people caught up in it. You know, and that was my gripe. You're 100% right. You're drawing a line. You're causing people to choose. But to me, there's not really a choice. I mean, if you want to line up with scumbags, then what does that say about you?
Well, it's like with the globe, the authority that is given to people like astrophysicists. It's hard for people to look past that just at the truth of circumstance. Sometimes they need someone, and they put QE and Adam in a place in their minds where they can do no wrong, and they've sanctified them, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, but how did they do that? They allowed themselves to be whispered to. If you're going to sit in a phone call with someone for 2 hours, yeah, they're going to persuade you or try to persuade you. And that's the problem. They stood there, listened to their nonsense, and then by the end of it, they were like, yeah, you're right. You guys did write the book about Nathan's life. It is yours.
I think, if anything, it shows how easy it was to convince the world they were on a globe when they knew better.
Maybe. That's how easy it was, huh? You're right. I'm not walking on a flat, level plane. I'm walking around the globe.
Well, they didn't QE and Adam put statements of fact into if scenarios quite often during all this.
Well, there's the reason for that. Now, we all know. Sorry, Nathan, it's going to happen. And unless you tell me to stop, I'm not going to stop. Adam's an ugly bastard. We know what he looks like, scraggly, dirty bastard. But I didn't know what QE looked like. And he's a dweeb. He's what we call a freaking dweeb. He's what we labeled on the show as the actually. It's this. So that's why they fought against Measured Flat, because they're dweebs. One's a mathematical, in his own words, brilliant mind, and the other one is just a dweeb. He probably got smacked around in school. I mean, I'd smack him just at a GP if I see him.
Called today's show Pearl versus Jesus.
No, I wouldn't do that. The only thing I didn't agree with what she said, but she did say she's not religious, so I don't think she meant anything by it. And when she was saying, "I'm a woman, my faults are up here, Jesus' faults are down here," he had no faults. He was God incarnate. But you know, she did throw a disclaimer in there that she's not religious. So I don't think she meant it in a harmful way. She was just making an example.
How about a title of "You Ain't Jesus"?
How about just the wisdom of Pearl? What's wrong with that?
There you go.
She's dropping her wisdom.
Pearls of wisdom.
Pearls above swine.
That's a good one. I like that one. Bells above swine. Yeah, a lot of swine walking around us. Well, we got rid of a lot of swine. Let's make that clear. Got rid of a lot of swine. Nobody got up and left. Nathan kicked their asses out. Didn't get up and leave, take your ball and go home. We took the ball. Basically, Nathan took the ball, said, take this ball you just stole from me and get the F out of here. And don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Pearls of wisdom, you ain't Jesus.
Too long. Are you using the Jesus as a clickbait, Nathan? On the other hand, there's great people in this community that Nathan's put together here. I'm about to meet one in a few hours named Skeptic936. Skep, if you're listening, oh, he can't. He's not listening because the show ended. It's not the live show. Anyway, when you hear it back in the recording, glad to meet you. See, when I come to meet you guys, I'm going to pop in on curry night one day, blow all your minds.
What is
Tomorrow
a
night.
curry night?
What's curry night? Oh, my goodness, John. Are you not keeping up with the flat earth debate? Tell them what curry night is.
It's the night of the curry, when everything goes down. Everything and anything.
So when everything goes south, do you mean you guys get together usually on a Friday, am I right?
Sorry, say again.
It's usually on a Friday night, correct? Or...
Yep, tomorrow night.
See, tomorrow night, guys get together over a curry. The English, the Irish, they love curry. Their thing. So it's going south tomorrow.
Has anybody ever tried to define to you with nonlinear geometry something that has shape?
No.
Odd, isn't it, that they would want the shape of the earth when they are incapable of describing it themselves?
Is it time to round out the show nice and early?
Well, how would you describe it, John?
No.
I would use straight lines to define shapes and well, but everything would be described with straight lines. That's perspective. But if you believe in a nonlinear mechanics, why would you ever use that?
To tell people they live on a ball.
Yeah, but you're incapable of describing the ball without straight lines.
Yeah, but they don't care. They'll use it and they'll say straight curves, horizontal bends, refraction.
My friend took a tape measure and wrapped it around a toy globe to show me that the toy globe is 38 inches around, and that means that the measurement wasn't flat, and therefore Earth's a globe.
Does he know the origin of the inch yet? See, you got to take that guy all the way back to the inch. What the inch is, I guarantee it's not off.
Yeah, you can take a straight line and conform it around a curve, right, and describe it that way. That's why we describe circumference in inches. But you still need the plane of reference in order to describe that sphere within.
Furthermore,
That's correct.
Furthermore, you're not applying that convention accurately if you describe it as comparable to a tape measure wrapped around a sphere toy. Because if you're describing Earth's topology with miles, which admittedly are a derivative of the inch, so from that point it is correct, but when you just directly measure the surface, it is horizontal, it is linear, it's not bending. Why? Because number one, that's what a mile is when you're referencing Earth with it. Number two, if you're going to describe topographical changes with respect to the mile axiomatically must be horizontal. And it is. That's what maps are describing in their scales. And if you're going to say, well, I don't accept that maps are accurate, okay, take it up with the Ordnance Survey. But the principle utilised by the map makers is that a mile is horizontal and linear in terms of its measurement when comparing Earth to the topographical changes described from the mile. Horizontal and linear. So it's like, okay, what you're saying, you can wrap a tape measure around my fat belly, therefore inches curve? No. We're talking about Earth measurement. And topographical changes can't be described from the mile if the mile isn't flat. The mile is flat. That's why the scales are flat. That's how it's been measured. So it's a false equivalence when you describe how you can wrap a tape measure around something. Well, that's not how we're measuring the surface. We're certainly not measuring the topographical deviations from the mile measurement of the land unless it's flat. It is flat. This is a non-discussion point. Like, the guy wrapping his tape measure around a toy globe has any bearing on how the Ordnance Survey actually measured the land? No. Utterly inconsequential discussion. The land is measured in miles. They are flat. I don't give two shits if you think it's wrong, disagree. The convention is what it is. It's been used to measure Earth with. You don't have to frickin' like it.
They don't argue with it when they use a map, do they?
Well, what it is, I think, is you have, two different planes you reference. You reference your field of view, which is your apparent, that's apparent sizes and angles, things like that. And then you have the actual plane you stood atop, which, that's your plane of measurement where you get elevations and such from. So in describing it differently, those two differences, they confuse things. That might be the biggest problem.
I don't care what you say. It's just not flat.
Doesn't matter
when
what
it
you
gets to
say.
that-
It is flat. That's what miles are. Like I say, it's not up for debate or discussion. This isn't a point of contention. As I say, the reason it's not a point of contention, regardless of what some muppet who doesn't understand his own heliocentric belief suggests when they wrap tape measures around globes, the heliocentric derivation in mathematical terminology is also deriving values from miles, like 8 inches per mile squared. It's like, okay, if you say miles bend, you can't then derive your heliocentric worldview of an 8 inches deviation when measuring height off sea level. You've got axiomatic principles that are required in flat Earth terminology for height and distance to then move on after the flat Earth prerequisites have been measured in miles for you to derive sphericity from them. So there is no conjecture, there's no debate, there's no dispute. Everyone requires miles be flat, even if you're a heliocentric extrapolator, utilising the flat Earth measurements to then immediately ignore them and discard them because you say they bend. They don't. You require them to be flat just like everyone else.
I think you made a mistake. You were supposed to say 8 inches per mile oct. You said squared.
It's a squared function. So the 8 inches per mile suggestion is a squared function, but you're deriving the squared function from a linear distance measurement in miles. So you first have to have the linear distance measurement in miles to derive 8 inches per mile squared. That's how you do that. Now, it's an extrapolation, or what we more commonly call a calculation, after the flat Earth measurement fact. There's no, oh, well, miles bend. Okay, what rate do they bend at? Where are you going to derive that rate from?
Yeah, especially if you book. Go ahead.
I was going to say, since it's a constantly changing number of not zero, it would, back to my original question, how do you describe something with nonlinear mechanics? You can't.
Exactly. You have to have the horizontal principle axiomatically tied to a measurement in a value that you agree on conventionally. That's miles. And the convention to derive sphericity from has to be flat, has to be horizontal, has to be comparable to a measurement of Earth's surface to derive the squared functionality from it. Earth being described as curved, in spite of it violating the base principle when deriving this dip angle measurement from a parallel eye level. Parallel to what, you say? The same frickin' surface level that's got to be horizontal that you're going to describe the miles with. Like I say, there is no disputing this. Everyone requires Earth be measured flat, even dumbass sphere believers.
Well said, Nathan. Wonderful.
I was wondering if maybe saying nonlinear mechanics is why people aren't understanding it. You don't, with Euclidean geometry, we'll just say that for now, like there's any other kind of geometry we experience, it's just straight lines intersecting at points, right? You can't do that if you believe everything's arcing.
Exactly. Now, see, everybody listening to that should comprehend what's being spoken about right now. If you can't comprehend that, then you need to check yourself. I say that to say this. The only thing that would cause you, let me see, how can I phrase this? Then you got a religious belief if you're going to contend with this. Because like Nathan said, this is not disputable. It's not debatable. It is what it is. So if you're contrary to what we just discussed, then you're in a religious belief.
Yeah, well, even if you're in a religious belief, it's still not contentious within your religion. Earth being measured flat is a foundational tenet of heliocentrism. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's one thing that confuses me. I got to say that. When you say they know it's measured, they utilize it flat, right? So how do they go further to make it a ball? Like, it, it don't compute to me.
They put
Maybe-
what's known in an if statement, and then they use calculation to
Oh,
deny measurement, but to turn around and use those measurements anyway.
yeah, but if the calculation don't line up with the measurement, the calculation's wrong. Houston, we have
Or
a problem.
misapplied. It's misapplied at best.
Misapplied. Okay. I I measure my room to be 100 square feet. Square feet. Right? I have 10 other rooms similar to that. And what I'll do is I'll count the ceiling tiles and I'll use them as my reference to how big all the rooms are. And I'll calculate that to be 10 rooms, 100 square feet each room. So what do I got? 1,000 square feet? Right? So somewhere along the line, I'm going off. Oh, I just checked the room. It's a little more than freaking 100 square feet. There's a few, some of the tiles are bigger than other tiles. So my calculation is not matching up with the measurement. So how can I misapply that? I have to go back and I have to remeasure that room. I can't misapply it. I got to remeasure. Or I could just go with it and then I wind up being short a lot of flooring. Maybe that's where the distortions come in. You guys are a rough crowd.
I had to go chase down my dog. It got outside somehow. Y'all hear me?
I hear you, yeah. Go get the dog.
Damned if I ain't old. I'm out of breath, honey. Barely ran. I'll tell you what. The dog, he got neutered like 3 years ago because he got out and the pound caught him, and we didn't know, and they went ahead and neutered him. You know, because he's a mutt. He's not a full-blooded anything, and he's a little slower. You know, he's put on quite a bit of weight, but he's a lot slower than he used to be.
It's very quiet in here.
Hold on a second, John. You still there, Refracted?
Yeah, I was trying to whine about my dog, but nobody's listening, I don't think.
Well, no, I had something else. Nathan, if you want to round out, you were going to round out? Because it could be said in it when we're just hanging out. I'll wait.
I just don't want loads dead air. I'm moving things around in the garage so that we can fit our car in. Now that it's now the sun's coming. Don't want the paint to fade.
Well, you could use nonlinear geometry to stack stuff there, Nathan, like where it doesn't fit, instead of measuring for it, just change, reality. And
Refracted. Do you recall that day when we were telling Nathan that, the book could be so much better? You were in the hangout, correct?
yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any statement of there that with the help that they would be part of the creative process as far as co-authorship?
No, the intention was to just give him citations to back some of his claims and correct anything that was, maybe ambiguous or because it wasn't really that anything was wrong. It was just that we believed that
We can make it better.
some of the language.
Right, because Chuck is just a publisher. He wasn't part of the flat earth debate. So a lot of the the language used was, didn't fit. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay, now when we get to chapter 4, I believe you were there for this too, when they were like, we'd be better off starting fresh right from here. Was there an agreement made that in starting fresh from this point, that a new book was being written and that there would be co-authorship?
No, that's when Adam come out with his statement of, the the epilogue of him stating that you can think of yourself as being part of the book, but it's Nathan's book,
Correct. That's when Eli, was Eli, but really it was directed towards, people that were planning the freaking move at that point. Okay, so great. Got that on recording. People will hear it when it comes out in a couple of weeks. that freaking message that's
Yeah,
the
I
agreement
thought we
was
covered this yesterday.
we're starting fresh and we're all part of it. No, that was not the agreement. You freaking idiot.
We covered this yesterday. So I quote Flatsy Klein. It was my understanding that we were all volunteering to help for your book. I'm fine with doing that. I don't need anything in return. I'm just shocked. End quote.
Great.
My response.
All right.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely heartbreaking. That was my response to her.
Okay, good. So now you should be clear because for some reason, you know, I get these measures supposed to be on an after show and nobody's supposed to be hearing this but us right here and whoever's in Discord. But meanwhile, people are able to send me messages of the stuff that we're talking about in real time. So with that, now you just heard, because I don't know how, but you're listening. So stop, use your freaking brain, and stop being a freaking, what do you call it, people that like to stoke a fire? Stop adding wood to the fire.
Sarah.
Yeah, stirring shit. You know damn well what happened. You know what it is, Nathan, too, it bothers me? Everybody knows damn well what happened.
Indeed.
Shit.
Yes, people have got half a brain, do. I'm going to round out on that note. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Be sure to let Pearl know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.